Hi there and welcome to this video review of the FeiyuTech G6 Max small form factor gimbal. FeiyuTech did send me the gimbal for the purpose of this review, but they're not paying me and the thoughts and opinions expressed are entirely my own. So as you can see, the G6 Max is a small form factor gimbal and it's designed with action cameras, smartphones, compact cameras, and even small mirrorless setups in mind. In terms of what you actually get in the box, it comes in a nice foam carry case. It's nice and small and lightweight, and so that would fit in pretty much any bag. Along with the gimbal, you get this small tripod which mounts into the 1/4-20 in the bottom of the gimbal. And that's super handy for balancing and just popping the gimbal down on any flat surface. Pretty much an essential item with any modern gimbal. As well as that, you get a charging cable and then you get an action camera mount and a smartphone mount as well to allow you to put those type of cameras on this gimbal. Now, I must admit, when I got my hands on the G6 Max, I opened up the box, I saw the size of it. I didn't think there was any way that it would be able to take a mirrorless setup. What I've actually got on here is a older Panasonic GH4, a Metabones adapter, and a Panasonic 50mm f1.4 lens. And this setup comes in about 1.1 kilograms. The max weight of the G6 Max is rated at 1.2 kilograms. So this is a real good test for it. And what I actually find is a lot of the times it's not necessarily about the weight of a setup, but actually the size and dimensions of it. And especially with smaller gimbals, they can be quite hard to mount. And what you can see here is that the camera is nice and level. It's nicely balanced in all three axes. If I go ahead and actually turn the gimbal on, you'll see that the camera and the gimbal is able to cope nicely with the setup. So in terms of functionality, the gimbal has a range of different modes. These are all controlled by the handy little OLED screen on the rear of the gimbal. And at the moment, I'm in the pan follow mode. I just go ahead and press the button on the back. That changes it to lock mode. And then if I press that again, it will go back into the pan follow mode. If I double press it, it will go into the tilt follow mode, where the camera will follow the tilt of the gimbal. And then if I triple press it, it will go into the all follow mode, where the camera will follow whatever movement that I do in all three axes. You've got a wide range of functions that are controlled through the OLED screen on the rear of the camera. You have the ability to set the motor strength for all three axes, which is really, really useful. Being able to do that on the gimbal, not having to use an app, just means it's that much quicker to do. And also when you're switching between camera setups, so going from a bigger camera setup to a smartphone or an action camera, there is an automatic motor initialization function, which will set the motor strength depending on the weight of your setup. So you have a handy control wheel on the side of the gimbal, which controls the three axes of the gimbal. And all you do is you push that in to switch between axes. So that's the roll control, the tilt, and then obviously the pan. And then once again, you also have control over the sensitivity of that. That's in the menu. So you can really fine tune that to your own preference. In terms of the setup and balancing of the gimbal, it's fairly similar to the larger gimbals made by FeiyuTech, but there's a few small differences. Handily, it's got the lock function of all three axes. So you have little small tabs, which you can then pop in and the gimbal becomes completely locked. And then what that allows you to do is balance one axis at a time. It's super handy for getting it dialed in. And then in terms of actually moving the camera position, they have a slightly different system than they do on some of their other gimbals. With the other gimbals, they have a little thumb screw which you slacken off and tighten. These are sort of wheels almost, and you just unlock them by turning them one way, and then once you've got your camera set in the correct position, you turn them the other way and then they lock. Takes a little bit of time to get used to, but works perfectly fine. In terms of battery life, it's rated at 9 hours. That obviously depends on the weight of the setup that you are using, but certainly you should get pretty much a full day's worth of shooting out of it. To charge it, it has a USB-C connection, and that's great because you can pretty much charge it off anything. A phone charger, a power bank, just means charging it when you're out and about is really easy to do. So in terms of mounting options, you get a handy base plate, which you just slide into a quick release. Once that is locked in place, you then have a 1/4 screw, which you then use to mount your camera. So if I go ahead here and mount a GoPro to it, and then the handy thing with the base plate is that it actually moves horizontally as well, which just makes balancing that much easier. So as well as those 4 normal shooting modes, you also have other options as well. So for example, you've got the selfie mode, which is perfect for vlogging. You have some other creative ones, the inception mode, which will turn your camera horizontally and then allow you to spin it 360 degrees throughout a scene. There is a portrait mode on there, which will turn your camera into that vertical aspect ratio, and that's perfect if you're filming content for the likes of Instagram. In terms of the motor strength, I found it to be pretty good. It copes with lighter setups obviously a little bit better, and you do actually have very responsive motors, so you can see for doing quick maneuvers where you want to follow a subject very quickly, it is very effective. So overall, the G6 Max is a really interesting and innovative product. I haven't used a gimbal of this size before, and actually the fact that it will take a range of cameras, action cameras, smartphones, compacts, and even those small mirrorless setups is really impressive. If you are interested in finding out more or picking up a G6 Max, then do take a look at the links in the description. If you've got any questions or comments, please drop them below. I'll do my best to get back to you. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.